6:03 right now. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, flashing back to the decision to continue to pursue Hamas into Rafah. This was Kamala Harris's warning to Bibi Netanyahu when that prospect was on the table. Don't do it, she said.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps.
Oh, my God.
There's nowhere for those folks to go. And we're looking at about 1.5 million people in Rafah who are there because they were told to go there, most of them. And so we've been very clear that it would be a mistake to move into Rafah with any type of military operation.
A mistake, but would there be consequences if he does move forward?
Well, we're going to take it one step at a time, but we've been very clear in terms of our perspective on whether or not that should happen.
Are you ruling out that there would be consequences from the United States?
I am ruling out nothing.
Yeah, the good news is that just like the Iranians, Netanyahu knows that Biden and Harris are paper tigers. So they went into Rafah, and yesterday they announced they had taken out the mastermind of the 10/7 terrorist attack, the head of Hamas, Sinwar. Israeli commentator, summarizing this, I thought very succinctly. The IDF is now releasing classified information about the hunt for Sinwar. The 6 hostages who were executed, including Hirsch, were the ones used as human shields by Sinwar for months. After the rescue of Farhan al-Qaidi, the Hamas leader left the tunnel where the hostages were being kept. Their physical condition no longer allowed them to be moved around, and Sinwar believed his best chance was to move swiftly from place to place. Not long after, Hamas executed them, the hostages, when the IDF was getting close. The destruction of much of the tunnel system also meant he had to hide above ground, part of the military operation in Rafah. In sum, it is the relentless pressure from the IDF that flushed Sinwar out and allowed them to take him out. And that's a positive occurrence because this is a terrorist organization leader. It's a positive occurrence that Israel over the last year has taken out most of the senior leadership of 2 Iranian terrorist proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas. But does that mean that there shouldn't be a pivot by Netanyahu now to negotiate some sort of ceasefire in exchange for hostages being released? There's still 101 Israeli hostages held by Hamas, reportedly.
Allegedly 5 Americans.
So for more on that, we're pleased to be joined by Cliff May. He is the president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Cliff, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan and Amy. You know, listening to that, I've heard that bite of Kamala Harris many times, and what just occurred to me, and it hadn't before, is we never heard Biden speaking as toughly to Hamas or to Iran. Never did she say, I'm telling Hamas now, I'm not asking. You have American hostages. You are to release them, or the consequences for you will be terrible. She never said to the rulers of Iran, this is your proxy. They've taken American hostages. You must order them released. If you do not, we will cause you severe pain. And she also should have said the same thing to the Qataris, because it's in Qatar that leaders of Hamas have been living. Right now, the principal leader lives in Qatar. Why not say to Qatar, who is made an ally, a major non-NATO ally of the U.S. by Biden, now you have a job to do. You have leader. Right now, they should be saying to the Hamas leader, order the release of the hostages. You're the leader of Hamas. Order the hostages released and tell your forces to put down their arms and surrender, so this ends for the people of Gaza, who are theoretically the people you lead. Do that now, or we put you in handcuffs.
But does that mean? I mean, so I mean, maybe this is a more nuanced answer than people want it to be. But with respect to Bibi, does that mean, in your view, that he should press on or he should pause to provide opportunity for the hostages to be released and some sort of deal did be struck?
Not mutually exclusive. In fact, what Bibi has already done is he has said the first time, and as Kamala would say, and very clearly, I will give amnesty. You will live if you release the hostages. That's what we're asking you to do. Release the hostages, and you will live. If you do not, we're coming after you. We will find you, and we will kill you. But you have a chance to live right now. All you have to do is release the hostages. First time he's made that offer. He made it very clearly yesterday in a speech. At the same time, there are troops in Gaza, including the troops that found Sinwar. And these were not elite troops. These were not commandos. These were not special forces. These were young enlisted guys on a training mission, trying to learn how to do what they have to do to become sergeants. But they were watching carefully. They saw things. They found things, and they ended up, to their surprise, getting into a firefight with Sinwar, who hid on the second story of the building, but unsuccessfully, and died there.
Yeah, throwing a stick at that drone, it wasn't going to be quite enough. By the way, great Liam Neeson impersonation there, though. I will find you and I will kill you. I mean, that is very, wow. Yeah, very stark. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, something else. It turned out, this was Dr. Eli David tweeting this out, who's a Jewish researcher and entrepreneur. The ID card carried by Sinwar's bodyguard identifies him as a UNRWA teacher, United Nations Relief Agency that the American taxpayers largely finance.
Yes, a couple of things. There's some dispute on that, but only for the following reasons. One is this UNRWA. This is the major UN organization that has been in Gaza for years and years and years. In theory, UNRWA is meant to resettle refugees. In practice, it does the opposite. It makes sure that generation upon generation think of themselves as refugees and think that what they have to do is kill Jews and Israelis. They're teachers in schools where they teach hatred. They provide clinics and healthcare and hospitals, and their doctors. They provide jobs to Hamas members and the families of Hamas members. They have worked hand in glove with Hamas ever since Hamas took over Gaza Strip by force in 2007, 2 years after the Israelis fully withdrew. And what we think, and I've got some researchers who have been looking into this, that the ID you're looking at maybe somebody who died or left a couple of years ago, but Sinwar and the people with him figured that if they were going to travel abroad, a UN ID is very useful.
Oh,
so
it's just
raises the possibility that's
fraud.
what he was about to do.
That's a fraud.
Get out.
But I mean, okay, so maybe that is not on the UNRWA, as you said, but that agency is terribly problematic, and
yes.
There were as you were sort of describing, and it is largely funded by Americans, as the UN is, at least disproportionately.
30%, right?
Yeah, and so there was this threat that if that relief agency wasn't getting resources to non-combatants in Gaza, that there would be consequences. That's what the Biden-Harris administration said. Well, they're not, and there haven't been any consequences. I mean, this is an organization that I don't want to be over the top, but we've talked about them before. The number of people that were involved in plotting the October 7th attack that had connections to UNRWA, that were employees of UNRWA. I mean, when do we designate this agency within the UN as a terrorist organization?
We should have done it yesterday. We should have done it the day before. We know now this is the social service agency of Hamas, which has allowed Hamas since 2007 to do what it wanted to do, not worry about healthcare, not worry about education, leave that to UNRWA, using often again Hamas members or their families. So Hamas could do the work it wanted to do, which was to build the subterranean fortress to be used for this war, to prepare for the invasion of 10/7/23 and the massacre. And that massacre was meant to start a regional war. And by the way, lest we ever forget for a minute, all this is very much under the auspices of the rulers in Tehran, who use the Palestinians as proxies and, more importantly, as pawns. And pawns are meant to be sacrificed in the great game that the rulers of Iran are playing. And their pawns and proxies are almost all Arabs, Palestinians, Lebanese, Yemenis, Syrians, Iraqis, people on the West Bank. That's what they are doing, because ever since 1979, when the revolution took place, I was there as a reporter, the slogan of the regime in Iran is death to Israel and death to America. That's their ambition, that and the formation of a new Islamic empire in the Middle East with its metropole, its capital in Tehran.
Well, let's talk about what's going on here. In your article in the Washington Times, you talked about the anti-Zionists who, celebrated the murders, rapes, and abductions on the first anniversary of October 7th. But I don't know if you heard what's happening here. It was mortified. They're on the 294, which is a main thoroughfare, a toll road here in the Chicago area. Somebody hacked a billboard near a Jewish suburb of Northbrook and wrote F Israel, while another displayed the message death to Israel. And both billboards had Palestinian flags in the background. And so the company is, whoever owns the billboard is electronic billboard. But how in the world, did you ever think in your lifetime that you would see such hatred towards the Jewish community here in America?
I thought that after World War II, after the Holocaust, that here in America, no, we would never see anything quite like this. It's really important to understand. People misunderstand. To be a Zionist just means you believe that Israel has a right to exist and should exist. To be an anti-Zionist means you think Israel has no right to exist and should not exist. And the question that arises, if Israel shouldn't exist, by what means do you intend to disestablish it? And the means that most of these people that you're talking about have, very clear, it's genocide. They want to see what happened on 10/7 happen across Israel many times. They want to see the Israelis all murdered, massacred, raped, thrown into the sea. That's what they want. The other possibility is also problematic, and that would say, why does the Israelis just give citizenship to the people of Gaza and the West Bank? And then Hamas would be a political party, an armed political party, of course, and they could, run for election against such political parties that already exist in Israel as Likud or Yesh Atid or, oh, by the way, the United Arab List, because 20% of Israelis are Arabs and Muslims. But that wouldn't work either. So what they want to see is and then there are those who scream, we don't want no two-state, we want 48. What do they mean? Well, in 1948, the UN recommended, very different than the UN, that there be a partition of Palestine into an Arab state and a Jewish state. Arabs didn't then identify as Palestinians. And the Arab states around Israel immediately invaded and tried to push all the Jews into the sea. But the War of Independence, Israel survived and has survived since, but you still have these genocidal forces around Israel, and they are led by the rulers in Iran, who are also viciously oppressing their own people.
What did you think about Kamala's distillation of her position on Iran, first on 60 Minutes and then the other day with Bret Baier talking about Iran as the greatest foreign threat America faces? And she essentially does this, typical sort of leftist projection deal where she's a hardliner on Iran, and Trump was the president who went soft on Iran by walking away from that nuclear deal that begun under Obama.
It's a total inversion of the truth, I'm afraid. There's no way in which the Biden administration has been tough on the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's enriched the Islamic Republic of Iran by at least $200 billion, and that money is used to produce nuclear weapons. They're working hard on it. They're very close to it, to support Hezbollah, to support Hamas, to support the Houthis, who are being supplied with missiles. The JCPOA, what they're talking about, what she's talking about, I guess, is Obama's plan, and there's no question that the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was not comprehensive nor a plan of action, would not have stopped the Islamic Republic from acquiring nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them not just to Israel but anywhere in the world, including to the U.S. It might at best have delayed it, so it wouldn't happen on Obama's watch. That's all there was. And by the way, the Islamic Republic of Iran has told Biden numerous times over the past 3.5 years, we're not getting into any deal with you. You can continue to give us money, and which they have been, by not enforcing sanctions, by waiving sanctions, so we can sell oil cheaply to China. But we're not going anywhere with you. We're not doing anything. The Islamic Republic of Iran is a very serious threat to the U.S., but it's also in an axis we should understand with Beijing and with Moscow and with North Korea and increasingly with Venezuela and Cuba.
Cliff May is the president of the Foundation for Defensive Democracies, also a foreign affairs columnist for the Washington Times. Cliff, thanks as always.
Dan, Amy, thank you.
Thank you, and he joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king-size for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever and receive free shipping on orders over $75. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. They have never been offered this low before. They're limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88, the lowest price ever.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Oh, I have a friend, Julia, who has taken a Balance of Nature now for quite some time. And she said, oh, Becky, ask your doctor about taking Balance of Nature.